Hey gamers! Choosing your favorite SNES game is like picking your favorite child. It's obviously Mega Man X. It's me, Jason.
And I'm just a sweet, innocent Super Nintendo looking for a big, muscly N60 whore. It's me, Patrick. Welcome to RPGaymer Episode 10, a podcast about the Super Nintendo.
Cannot believe you just said that. what a sentence.
I know.
Okay, Patrick is crazy. Today we are talking about we are talking about the Super Nintendo. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. But before we get into that, we have another very special guest with us. DavidVinc is here.
Hi guys, how is everybody doing?
I want to welcome you, because I've been watching you pretty much for the entirety of your journey, but also because I think you're the first actually full-on gay guest we've ever had on a show, which is crazy because this is episode 10 of season 3.
Season 3.
Like, it's been a long time coming, so we're really happy to have you here. Maybe a few questions we want to ask you just so our audience who may not know you can get to know you, which I'm pretty sure most of them probably do. But what got you started into this content creator sphere of wanting to talk about games?
Gosh, it's actually kind of a funny story. So I'm sure many of you out there who have followed me or whatever know that I was a school teacher. I taught school for many, many, many years. And my husband, he travels a lot. He goes on business trips a lot. So there was one summer break where essentially he was going to be gone for like all 8 weeks of the summer break. And I was just kind of like stuck home alone, and it sucked. So I was like, I gotta do something, and I would watch H.C. Bailey. I'd be bored out of my mind, and I'd watch him. And I was like, you know what? If he can play these games, I can play these games. Give me a break. So I started Let's Playing. And my very first Let's Play was my favorite game, Dragon Quest V, of all things, for the PS2.
Wow.
And I chose it because I love Dragon Quest V, and because there actually wasn't a Let's Play of the PS2 version of the game out there. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And I started doing it, and I remember in my very first episode, I said something like, I'm not going to be cutting out the battles, because I think that it's important that all of you see every single battle in it. But the real reason was, I had no idea how to edit a video, and I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like, did you start learning how to do that when you were playing Beyond the Beyond? Because I remember watching your playthrough of that, and that would be the longest Let's Play ever if you showed every single battle of that game.
Yeah, I started cutting out battles in like episode 3 or 4 of the Dragon Quest V Let's Play. So I started doing it really
This is not
early,
sustainable to keep going.
It was very much learning how to be a YouTuber very much on the fly. I had no idea what I was doing at all. None whatsoever. But it was a fun journey,
Yeah. I mean, look where you are now. Look at the community that you have. Yeah. And that's one thing that I want to talk about too. I think you might be the first gay video game content creator that I knew. Like, and I've been consuming video game content for a very long time. What's it like being that kind of first era of gay content creators?
I don't really think about it that much, I guess. To me, I'm just creating content. I'm just doing what I love, and being the gay guy is completely secondary to my love of JRPGs. But like, I still get those comments every once in a while. I used to get them a lot when I very first started, of like, oh my god, I can't believe that you're gay. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm watching this. Who's this gay person?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like, this one person, he called me a flamer, and then he was like, I only called you a flamer because you have gay as a banned word. And I'm like, you idiot, I don't have gay as a banned word. Like, what are you talking about? You call me a flamer, screw you, you're banned. And like I just get some weird comments. Yeah.
You had a video, I remember like a long time ago, and it was a very satirical video where you were basically like hamming up what people think it means to be gay. And I feel like when it's inside the community and people are talking to you about like you are a gay content creator, it's a good thing. But when it's outside of the gay community, it almost feels like that's your token, that's your like your platform you stand on. And it's not, it's like it's a double-edged sword. It feels good when you have people who are like, oh, I came to you because you are like me, and that's awesome. But outside, it's just kind of like, oh, this is your niche. And it's like, no, like you are very knowledgeable of video games, and you know, you have the credentials to be doing this, and you do it well. So like I can't imagine what it's like teetering on that line.
Yeah, sometimes it's like cultures collide, you know, like if I do a video that is gay humor, I guess, like my gay fans will get it and they'll understand it and they'll love it, and then you have the straight people like, the hell did I just watch?
What?
You know?
That pretty much sums up Jason and I in college, basically.
Oh my god. Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of funny, like I feel like you were talking about how credentials or whatever, it's almost like the same thing with a female gamer. Whenever they're like, you're not a true gamer, you're only here because of TNA, you know? And it's like, no, like people like Lady Pelvic and Food for Dogs, like they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like they're good people, and it's not gendered. You know, video game isn't gendered. It's not a gendered thing. Yeah, more men do play them, but they're not inherently male or female. You know, so it's just kind of a strange like hang up that some people have, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely, the nerd space is becoming a lot more welcoming and whatnot, but it still has a long way to go, and some of those barriers really just still need to be broken down. But regardless, I just want to say welcome, and like we are happy that you're here, and we're definitely happy that you're here to talk about the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, favorite system of all time. Love it.
Well, let's get into that. Since this was your favorite system of all time, what was your entry point? Because I mean, we have listeners from our age-ish, like mid to late 30s, and then we have gamers who are, or listeners that are 18.
Never really had an SNES. Yeah.
Entry points are going to be different for everyone. Yeah. What was yours?
So my entry point to the SNES. So let me just start. I'm actually a little bit older than y'all. I'm going to be 41 by the time that this episode actually airs. So yeah, I might as well be ancient.
You're making it sound like years in the future. Yeah.
Might as well be ancient in gamer years or JRPG years. You know, but anyway, my very first system was actually the NES. And I remember reading about the SNES and the Nintendo Power. And at first I was like, why do I want this? All the games that I want are on the NES. I didn't understand why I would need a better console or what the better console would do. I felt like all the console had was graphics. And to me, even as a little kid, graphics never really mattered to me. It was always about the gameplay. Like, you know, you had games that had good graphics, like, you know, Mario Brothers 3 or Kirby's Adventure. And yeah, they were good games. But the games that I liked had bad graphics. It was Dragon Warrior.
Your pixelated graphics,
you know what I mean?
Right.
It was you know, Crystalis. It was, you know, Final Fantasy 1, things like that. And I remember talking to my brother because my brother wanted it. And he was like, oh man, this Super Mario World, this looks fantastic. And I even told him, and here I am, you know, wise beyond my years at like 7 years old. And I was like, remember like Kung Fu or RC Pro-Am and how those games look like shit? But how like Mario Brothers 3 looks really good. Games are only starting to look really better. I was like, the Nintendo games, they'll look eventually just as good as the SNES games. It didn't occur to me, you know, the difference between 8-bit or 16-bit. And it didn't even cross my mind that Nintendo would stop making games for the NES.
Oh no!
And then make them for the SNES. And honestly, they didn't stop making Nintendo games from like 1994. But anyway, we got the SNES around 1991, and my first foray into the system was Super Mario World, obviously, because it came with it. We had F-Zero as well. Loved F-Zero. I always did the pink car. You know, I feel like, you know,
that's when you knew.
Yes, I know.
All the little clues along the way.
I have to ask, in Street Fighter 2, who did you always choose? You know,
Chun-Li.
Chun-Li, of course. You know,
or Cammy.
That's right.
But yeah, and then my first RPG on the system was Final Fantasy II. I had to have it because I loved Final Fantasy 1, and I had to have Final Fantasy 2, or what we know now as 4. The one with Cecil and Kane, because people always don't seem to know.
I think what you were saying about graphics is really important. And I know that's one thing that Jason and I talk about too, especially when it comes to newer gamers, where they have been kind of spoiled with games that look beautiful. And like, I know some of us who started, I mean, I've been gaming since I was 3, you know, and like the Nintendo was my first system as well, where you do appreciate some games that are a little bit clunkier in looks, but still function really
they don't
well.
know what it's like to have to use your imagination to play the game. Like, what does that actually look like?
And that's okay. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing, because you can't help the generation that you're born in. And it is nice that some people have these like remasters of certain games and whatnot. But I know when it comes to newer games, I don't mind if the graphics aren't as nice, because they're really just like playing the game probably. For me, actually, the first game or games that I got to play on the Super Nintendo, because I had a Nintendo and then a Sega, and I actually had not played any Super Nintendo until I went over to my cousin's, and then he actually lent me his Super Nintendo, was Legends of Zelda, of course, one of the greatest games ever made. And my first RPG on the Super Nintendo was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Oh gosh.
Which,
starting low.
But I mean, I think I'd played Shining Force 2 and Final Fantasy 1 at that point. So Mystic Quest seemed like it was a really good game, and probably has one of the biggest banging soundtracks out there. I think like that's probably one of the best parts about that game. So it wasn't as bad as it seems now. But Jason, what about you? Where'd you start?
Yeah, maybe similar to David. I also grew up with brothers. I was the youngest, and we didn't have an SNES when it first came out. I think we had the Genesis first, and I want to say years later we finally got the SNES. But I remember multiple times going to like video rental stores and renting the console with like games that we would get. I remember spending weekends playing Street Fighter Alpha 2, Super Punch Out. My cousin, he had Mario RPG, and that was one of my first RPGs, and I was like, what is this amazing game?
So good.
So good. And then eventually my middle brother got an SNES for Christmas one year, and I think he had he was the fighting game person, so he got me into those. So Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2, Killer Instinct, those are the big ones. And then I think my first game I actually got was actually Mega Man X. Like, that was the game that was given to me, and I grew up on the NES as well, so loving Mega Man 3, 4, 2, 6 in that order. And then jumping to X and being able to be like, this is such a progression forward. And like David said, didn't really care too much about the visuals. Yeah, it was cool, they were great, but the gameplay was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I think from there I was like, this is when I knew like I like video games. And yeah, just went from there.
So Jason, that's actually like, if I think of, even though Zelda and Mystic Quest were my first like games that I really played, I think Mega Man X was also like the game that got me hooked into the system.
It's so fun
because it is like you said, I was also like a Mega Man kid as well, which they were way too hard for a kid my age. But X seemed a little bit more approachable, at least in the earlier levels, and it was a little more fun because it didn't have that like Nintendo clunk. So that was the game that really got me hooked into the system and knew that like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. Other games that kind of got me hooked, Lufia 1. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because this is when we started to see more characters developing in games, and of course Final Fantasy 4, which when we had our Final Fantasy episode and the like Gamer Feels episode, was the first game to ever make me cry. When Edge's parents die. So this is like when you knew that like games were here to stay, and like they were more than just
it's a way to pass time.
A platform for entertainment. David, what were the games that really like hooked you into the system, aside from the ones that kind of were your entry point?
Well, Final Fantasy 2 was like a complete game changer for me. It was the one that like I was playing NES games still. I was playing Dragon Warrior 1 through 4. I was playing Crystalis. I was playing, all sorts of different stuff. But then Final Fantasy 2 came out, and it was just like you were talking about, the storyline. getting to know the characters, seeing, Cecil and Rosa be in love, watching Rydia grow up, like seeing an actual storyline in a video game was something completely revolutionary because it just didn't occur on the NES. Like the story of Dragon Warrior was save the princess, kill the Dragon Lord. But then after that, it was definitely Secret of Mana. I loved Secret of Mana. That came out the next year in 1993. And just, again, seeing the characters, seeing the beautiful, bright, vibrant world just kind of come to life. Every area was different. The music was just captivating. I loved it. Then there was Lufia 1, like you were talking about, which has its issues. It definitely has its fair share of issues. Like
I wouldn't say it's a good game, but I like it. Back then, it had that like a curb appeal. This is a good game. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is really important when we're talking about a system is to talk about how the era started versus how it ended. And then, Jason, I know you are big on this kind of analysis. What do you think were some of the big changes in the system over the year? Like, what was the bigger parts? I know David said graphics, which I think is definitely a huge thing, which you can see in some of the early games versus late games. But what else?
Yeah, for sure. I think that what David pointed out is really smart, and he's talking about like the banger after banger, and like the system consistently delivered year after year, and like this is a time when like Nintendo is in one of the first big like console wars with Sega. And I mean, like, how can Sega compete when there's just the console does so well on everything it pushes out? And like, I think David is talking about like a lot of RPGs and like non-Nintendo games, but Nintendo is pumping out some of their greatest games of all time. And the reason they're doing it is because of all those things you said. They are increasing storylines, like jumping from, I like Zelda 2, but like any of the NES Zeldas up to Link to the Past, that is an incredible jump in graphics, storytelling, music, and everything in between. And the same thing goes for Mario, not so much story, but Mario had great spin-offs there. Like they start developing brand new series and trying new experiments.
Like Mario's missing.
Mario is missing, obviously. No, but for real though, I mentioned Mario RPG, but we get Mario Kart, we get Super Mario World 2, like Yoshi's Island. We get just so many other like things that people try. And then this is also the heyday of like Capcom is really big. We're gonna start getting into just so many more types of games, and I think it's when this era sticks out so much and is often called your golden era of games because there's just so many innovations and new things that happen across every possible aspect of games. It's quite amazing, to be honest.
All the franchise that you see nowadays, for the most part, started back on the SNES. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all these. They may have started on the NES, they may have started on other systems, but it's like it just.
But they were solidified on the SNES.
Yes, they were completely solidified into the cultural conscience on the SNES. It was just such a game changer. I can't even begin to describe. Like I remember, I'm sure you guys do too. Mortal Monday. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
It totally
yes, exactly.
rings a bell to me. I was in middle school when Mortal Monday came around. That was the day that Mortal Kombat was being released, and the console wars were in full swing. And a lot of people had the SNES, but the people who had the Genesis, we have blood in our.
We have
Mortal
the blood,
Kombat. It was just
growing up a Genesis kid. I completely agree with that because, like, not having a Super Nintendo, I always felt like I was like the gritty, poor person. Because you take a look at all these games that were coming out on the Super Nintendo, and then you look at what was coming on the Sega, and the Sega had some incredible games as well, but like. We didn't really.
Some things can't compete,
but we had blood, like you said,
yeah,
on Mortal Kombat.
Because Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, that's a throwback. I think it is interesting to talk about the difference between these systems too, and why the Super Nintendo was so successful. And I think you kind of said it, where we saw some of these games really get refined. And one of the reasons why maybe it's not fair to compare the Sega to the Super Nintendo is we have brand new IPs coming out on the Sega that really haven't had the chance to develop from a previous system. and you think of Final Fantasy, that was the 6th Final Fantasy by the end of it. It was the 4th Final Fantasy going in. Mega Man already had 6 games. So many of these IPs were like already pretty well figuring out, where you hit Sega and you have these new ones like Shining Force, Sonic. They're good games, but they don't have that same polish that the Super Nintendo games do. And so is it fair to compare those?
100%.
Yes, compare them.
100%.
Yeah.
Because they were competing head to head as two 16-bit systems, and so yeah. But Nintendo was just better. They were just better, and it is what it is. And I'm sorry to say it, hate to break it to you, but if you put Phantasy Star 2, 3, and 4 head to head against Final Fantasy,
you better watch what you say. Patrick's right here.
Final Fantasy is gonna beat them bitches up, like, for real.
So I am
personally
first and
offended.
foremost always a Final Fantasy person, but I will say Phantasy Star 4 is like one of the unsung heroes of early RPGs. I agree with, like, the rest of it don't stand up, but Phantasy Star 4, like, that is the first game that made me cry. That has some legit emotions in there. So we fighting.
Love Phantasy Star 4. I can say
So
so many
good.
good things about it, but Phantasy Star 2 and 3, especially
they're
3,
not great.
oh my god.
Yeah, they're not great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are seeing a lot of indie games being developed in the style of Super Nintendo games. So I want to talk about that. But another thing that I want to talk about is if these older games are still worth playing for newcomers. So which one do you guys want to tackle first? Because I know both of these are like very loaded.
Ooh. I want to talk about older games being worth playing still.
The older games.
Because I think
you want to start there?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, we could talk about that because all of them.
All of them. Yeah. and since.
Yeah.
I can start on that one. I think yes, and I think it's to David's really really good point that, like, this is where a lot of these things started or got like perfected, and there's a reason why people still talk about these games all the time. And I know that we're a bunch of old dudes talking about games that we grew up with and, like, mean something to us, but people talk about FF6 because it's that good. People talk about Super Metroid. We haven't even mentioned that yet. Like, Super Metroid is really freaking good. And then on the opposite end of that, like, the first game to launch, Super Mario World, is also really good. And they're good because they don't need to be graphically impressive or like tell amazing stories, although most of them do. But like, they're good because what they do for the system, they do very well. Like, they don't step out of their bounds and try something crazy that doesn't work. It all works. And when you go back, like, you don't need to think like, I need achievements and like save states and all this stuff that you have from current games, because it wasn't made with that in mind. It's made to be on that console and do what that console does well, and it does. Yeah. And I think that's why retro games can still be fun to play through and still enjoy, and why you still see them get re-released on current consoles.
These games, they stand a test of time for a reason. We're not just bringing them up and talking about them because of nostalgia. Like, nobody's talking about Phantasy Star 3. That might be nostalgia, but it still sucks.
Right, because it's definitely nostalgia there.
Yeah, no one's talking about Secret of the Stars. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's nostalgia, but it still sucks. We're talking about, like, really, really good games that were groundbreaking at the time and still kind of are, and they set the trend for what games are trying to emulate today. Games like Chrono Trigger. How many times do you see a game that is Chrono Trigger inspired or Earthbound inspired? If I see another Earthbound inspired game, I'm gonna vomit. Like, they're all over the place, but there's a reason, because they were just so groundbreaking and just so good. They're just fantastic.
Yeah. See, so honestly, Patrick, it's you're kind of answering both questions in the same way. Like, the reason why those indie developers, I think it's because they look back, and maybe they have nostalgia, which is great. Love it for them. But like, they're probably looking back to a time when graphics didn't need to be as crazy impressive, so you don't have to worry about that end. But also, it's just the right time to make games. So like, looking back, it just kind of works.
I kind of think, I don't know if I completely agree that all the games are worth replaying, and this is hard for me because I think the games that I would actually recommend the least, aside from like the holy trinity that is Final Fantasy VI, Super Mario RPG, and Chrono Trigger, I don't. There are some games that like I just did like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yeah, you need to. Can you have Scott make a image of that?
I will. I don't know if I would recommend those games. Those games I would recommend, but outside of that, it's hard to recommend RPGs because they are just so what's the word I'm looking
archaic.
For?
A little old.
Calculus term, derivative. They're so derivative of what we have now that it might be harder for newer gamers, but there are games that you could like. I would recommend any of the platformers and any of the beat 'em ups, and I think that's why you have like SNES Drunk. He focuses a lot on those types of games because they still really truly hold up. Anyone could pick up and play it and still have a really good time. And I don't know if I can say that about some of the RPGs or some of the racing games that are from back then, just because they are like decades old, and we've seen decades developments of better games, but it still kills me to say that because I still love those games. But I couldn't walk up to my husband and be like, yo, play Final Fantasy 4 and expect him to have a good time, but I could hand him Donkey Kong or Mega Man or Yoshi's Island or any of those games, and he would have a great time.
Yeah. It's also worth bringing up for our younger viewers and listeners who don't know this, but at the time, like, arcades were still prominent, and like those were like big things to get like amazing games. So we've brought up Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. They're great on the SNES, but like they kind of suck compared to the arcade. So like there's some reasons why you would never really go back, and I think it's because back then technology just wasn't there for home consoles just yet to really enjoy those games. So like, yeah, for sure, some things just didn't land, but I do feel like the things that did, and I'm glad you mentioned platformers, that is like the heyday of platformers. You see them nowadays every now and then, but like no one's making platformers anymore because like the best ones were already made back then, because that's what the SNES did well. That's why like there's 5 billion Call of Duties and first-person shooters, because these new consoles do those really well. But I don't know,
yeah, like once 3D platformers really just don't stand up to 2D platformers.
I can't play
reality.
3D platformers to save my freaking life. Oh my god! The very first time like that I have Mario to jump in a 3D platformer, I might as well just throw the controller out the window because I can't do it. Like,
let's just hope that the jumping is even like plausible.
Yeah,
like it works okay too. That's a bad thing too.
Well, on that note, we are going to take a quick break for ads, and we'll be right back. And we are back from our break, and a little sad. I want to start on a bad note. Do we have some games on this series that haven't aged well? Because I kind of hit on the thing about some of the older RPGs and how maybe they aren't the most fun. And David, you were talking about like nostalgia sinking in for some of these games. That might be why people like them or replay them. What are some of these games that you would not say, oh, I don't know if I could go back to this, or maybe people should not play?
I'm kind of biased because I love a good RPG. But
sure,
if I had to go back and say some games that didn't age well, believe me, I can. So, you mentioned the first Lufia. The first Lufia didn't age well, especially compared to Lufia 2, because Lufia 2 is a masterpiece. The reason why Lufia 1 didn't age well, let me tell you right now. Targeting issues. So
tell us.
If you remember back on the NES, I do because I'm old. If you went and you targeted an enemy, and then you said, all your characters will target that same enemy, but then the fighter killed the enemy, then your black mage whiffs, your white mage whiffs, your thief whiffs, doesn't do anything. The same thing happened in Lufia 1. And it pissed me off. It didn't auto-target. Even Final Fantasy II auto-targeted. And this came out 2 years after Final Fantasy II. What the hell? It didn't make any sense to me why it didn't auto-target to the next enemy.
Which is funny because, like, I agree with you. For mechanically, it sucks, but in reality, I guess it kind of does make sense if we're all throwing a spell and
at like the same time.
At the same time, we're probably gonna go. But like, yeah, from a gaming standpoint, it's just kind of like, well, that sucks because that was a waste. So,
I mean, I think that they even fixed auto targeting in Final Fantasy III on the NES. I'm pretty sure it's been a minute since I've played that one. But yeah, I'm pretty.
I think you're right too.
I'm pretty sure they fixed it on the NES. You know, I've played the remakes.
See, I thought maybe you would say something like the first Breath of Fire is one that I love that series in its entirety, but it is that the first game is a rough game to go back to. Like, I don't think it really offers anything too special for anyone to go back and play, especially that the second game didn't already approve upon.
Viewers, we're hearing blasphemy right now.
I know it kills me. It kills me inside. Maybe if you're playing like the Game Boy Advanced re-release of it, to do it. But like that and Star Fox is fun to play, but it is not nice to play. The original Star Fox is not a great game. Did I say Star Fox? That's nice.
You said Star Fox.
I'm gonna
Star Fox. Bleep that out. Star Fox, Fox, FOX. That was actually one I wanted to include too, and it's definitely a product of its time. Because at the time, I remember seeing it and being like, "This is the coolest game. Nothing will ever top this." Yeah. And oh my gosh! And going back, it is atrocious. It's fun to look back just to see like what did people from the '90s think was cool. But looking back, oh man, that is rough. I also want to.
I think it's the reason I have an astigmatism in my left eye. Like
exactly. Yeah, that's the reason I have this lazy eye. It's from Star Fox.
Damn you, Star Fox.
Yeah, exactly. They made up for it. 64. It's like the best game ever. But I do also think going back to games that have multiple releases and looking at the original one can be detrimental sometimes because the first Mario Kart kind of sucks. Like I cannot play it. Like the way it's organized, they did not like have layouts down. I don't know. It didn't. It was great at the time, but like when you play the newer ones, it's clear like, you know, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 like happened and they improved on each one. It's clear Mario Kart got better, but I remember loving that game. And then they re-released it on like, I don't even know, Switch or Wii or something like that. And playing it again, I'm like, this is garbage. Like it was just not a fun one to look back on.
I used to play that all the time, but Star Fox. I remember looking at Star Fox in the Nintendo Power and thinking, what the hell is this? This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I didn't know why people liked it. I was like, this is like triangles flying around. And my brother, he thought it was the best thing ever. And I'm like, again, wisdom beyond my years, I suppose. But I was like, this is but ugly. Like you've lost your freaking mind. Oh,
I mean, it was
in Mario Kart. Who'd you choose?
Oh, I was either Luigi or Toad. Which one wasn't picked?
Who'd you choose?
Always Toad.
Toad. I was always Princess Toadstool.
Oh,
there you go, Toadstool.
Again, little things that if you track
the
back.
Sides. So I'm assuming Toadstool also in Mario Brothers 2.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she was the best. The best
she was
one.
the best.
The little
floatability.
Well, yeah, that's
hands down.
Different.
Yeah,
completely
and Toad was hard mode. You know, but
yeah,
Princess was
exactly.
Mode. Yeah.
So we kind of just looked at when we look back on the things that we think are super great or didn't age well. But like, if we reverse that, what do we think new games releasing nowadays maybe don't have that these old games did have?
Back whenever you opened up, let's just start at the very beginning. When you received the box, you received the cardboard box, and you look at the poster art at the front, and you turn it over, and you read it, and you see the little 3 TV screens on the side, and you look at the blurb, and it was just a magical moment of opening up that box, because you pulled out the game, but then what came along with that game? There was a huge manual. There were sometimes some cool posters. I remember I got a t-shirt with Illusion of Gaia, the strategy guide that came with Earthbound. I would just pour over it. It was charming. And you know what else? Whenever you plugged in that game, did it start up immediately? Yes, indeed, it did. There was no loading times. It was a complete pick up and play. If you would read, I would read the manual in the car right on the way home. But a lot of the times you didn't even have to read the manual. You could just figure it out. It was so easy to figure out. It wasn't overcomplicated. You know, nowadays you have not only, you know, ABXY, you have the R analog, the L analog, the R center button analog, the L center button analog, not just L and R, but then the RZ and the LZ. You know, you have R trigger and targeting and blah, 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 blah. Everything is so freaking complicated. I can't stand it. Back then, if you wanted to hit an enemy, you know what you did? You hit the A button. Bam, you hit the freaking enemy. Nowadays, it's, well, let's go ahead and get the ring target in and figure it out. Oh, but which body part do you want to hit? Do you want to hit the leg? Do you want to hit the arm? What do you want to disable? What do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. It's so much. Oh my God. It's like
David is on the
You're on
the back in my day, games were games.
I know. There was elegance in simplicity, people. There really is. Like, I just want to play the freaking game.
Well,
and
I love your note about the box, because when you were saying that too, like we went to a used game store recently and they had the manual, just the manual for Final Fantasy 3/6, the Super Nintendo version, and I bought it. And like, I didn't feel bad about buying it because it is so beautiful. Like, it just has like all the characters' information, all these little details, the spells that they can learn, things about the magicites. Like, it is all in there, and it's just something that like you could like.
It's like part of the experience.
It's just a part of the experience.
It really is.
We don't get that now.
No.
Like, you get really cheap swag that comes with pre-order bonuses.
Yeah.
Like,
or you get
it's not
digital deluxe edition, which is complete
right.
bullshit. Which is basically you get nothing. Here, give me
right.
20
Here
bucks
are
for
some
nothing. Give me a break.
Here are some skins that or some equipment that is good for the first like 1 hour of this game.
Yeah, exactly.
There, I mean, you kind of reminded me of, I don't remember the full name of it, but the New Star Ocean game, where literally the entire game at all points has like a quest reticule pointing exactly where you need to go, and it just holds your hand through the entire experience. And like you like, I think what you're saying is it just takes the fun out of the game. Like all these additional systems that they think that have to be there for new games aren't fun. I think that it really is just a case of style over substance. And I think I say up through maybe the PS2 era of games, we had a lot of substance in games over just style, but then you can kind of see that like transition a little bit maybe to the late PS2, where some of the games are kind of become a little bit more flashy and whatnot. It's sad when you're like, people don't want to play games because of how complicated they are, when like, I know Jason, you're a big person about this, sometimes you just want to be able to like get in and play a game, and who cares if it has all these mighty systems if it's not fun. Like, sometimes complex and fun, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I agree. I think to David's point earlier too, I just keep echoing what you're saying. I think that games, especially older games, I maybe hot take, but I always treated them as like toys. Like they are toys. Like, this is what I play with and it's fun. And then to Patrick's point, around PS2 era, like that shifted and it became more of like, I wouldn't say an adult thing, but it became more like serious and like less just focus on kids. And then that it only amplified as like years went on. So nowadays there's, games as service and just games for people who are in their 30s, like to play after work. There's just these things that don't really seem like your Earthbounds, your Chrono Triggers. Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
And it's just very different. And I think that's what is missing. Like, they're still video games and they're still artistic and amazing, but like Final Fantasy 16 will not be Final Fantasy 6. Like, they are not even in the same stratosphere in my mind. They're just very different. It's cool we live in a world where we have both of those things, and we, side tangent, you have developers like indie developers making games like Final Fantasy 6, but like it is very different. So having grown up in the younger era or older era, I should say, I appreciate it because I can see where it came from and like what some people nowadays are missing, and I think that kind of sucks for them.
Yeah.
sucks to be you, I guess is what I'm saying. But like, you have options, I guess. It's just like, where did it all come from?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can download an emulator and go play an SNES in 5 minutes. It's not hard to do.
But is it the same?
But I know that's the thing. Is it the same? Is it the same as you get a game on your birthday and you get a game on Christmas? So even if they're kind of crappy, you still gotta figure it out.
That's what you got. Yeah.
But like now,
hope you like Cool Spot. You're playing
so
that.
Many. But like going back to what you were talking about, how games are a toy. Like, remember whenever you're a kid and you have like your toy chest, and you would throw all your toys inside this big toy chest. I remember whenever we get the cardboard box, that was disposable. And I rip it open, literally rip open the cardboard box, throw that in the trash in about 2 seconds. And then the video game itself went inside of a wicker basket. I just threw it in a wicker basket, and there
Yeah.
it was. It just stayed in like a little toy basket. But nowadays, like, it's so collectible and pristine.
Mhm.
And is it graded? Is it still sealed in the plastic wrap? Ooh, we have to like
Yeah.
treat these with kid
Jason's a
gloves.
collector, so I'm
Yes.
laughing
I
my
am.
ass off right now.
I know.
Oh no, but I mean, I completely agree. Like that exactly. I think games are meant to be played, but I think if you want to be someone that really cherishes like your old copy of Super Mario World and you want it graded and shown off, that's cool. That's for you. But I think if you're just
I do. I mean, come on.
yeah,
I have this
yeah,
look,
collection
I see
behind
it,
me.
and like mine are right here. Yeah,
At
yeah.
the same time,
But I mean, like
it
if
almost
you,
takes the fun
yeah,
out of it, you know?
it does. It
The
completely takes
fact
it out.
that Earthbound packaged completely is what, $2,000?
It's insane.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, it's just not worth it at all.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
David, you were mentioning how people can get emulators, which we don't necessarily go into details about. But
Right.
one thing I do want to go into details about, to dodge the FBI and whatnot, is some of the good games that you can actually get that never were released in the US, or maybe just like the community have expanded upon. And you talk about some of these things a bit on your channel. You're kind of big on like fan-based hacks too. As I remember, you did something on oh crap, a Final Fantasy 6 one. I can't. It's not Brave
The
New
T
World.
edition. There
The
was the
T
T
edition.
edition. And I
Yeah.
streamed that T edition, and then I also did like a video on the T edition. The T edition, if you haven't played it, oh my gosh, play it. Like, there are ROM hacks out there, but the vast majority of these ROM hacks that you see, they're just like little changes, like, oh, don't you move so slow? Here, hit the B button, and now you can run. Whoop-de-doo. You know, that's nice, whatever.
Mhm.
This T edition, this changes the entire game. It makes it so that weapons actually teach you magic and spells. It rebalances every single character. Brand new dungeons, brand new storyline. There's so much in that T edition. I really, really like that. There's also that retranslation hack for Breath of Fire 2. And if you haven't played that one, definitely do it, because the translation is it's gloriously terrible. There's rebalancing patches on Secret of Mana and Secret of Evermore. Tons of different hacks for Final Fantasy 4 and 6 as well. Some adding new dungeons, some adding new storylines, some just letting you like play different characters and stuff like that. There's actually, you were talking about Breath of Fire 1 earlier, and how that didn't what's the word I'm looking for?
It doesn't hold. It doesn't
hold
well.
up for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a rebalancing patch on Breath of Fire 1 that makes certain characters much better, like Bo or Gobi or Mogu, makes them better, rebalances other characters and stuff like that. So that might be a good one to look into as well.
I know. So I've played Final Fantasy IV Ultima, which is one that I would really recommend if someone is a big FF4 fan, where it really goes in and kind of does what you were talking about, where it adds a little bit of bells and whistles to make the game just a little bit more current, you know, with different weapons, or you can kind of build out some of your characters. And then Final Fantasy VI Brave New World is my favorite iteration of Final Fantasy VI. Like, it's the one, if I'm going to play Final Fantasy VI now, I play, because they ramped up the difficulty and they reduced what espers certain people can get. And I like that, because once you get the espers in Final Fantasy VI, it kind of feels like everyone gets samey, and that's when we kind of see that sameness from Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 8, when like everyone can kind of just do the same thing.
I hate that everyone can do everything thing.
Yeah, it's a disappointment, because that's kind of what makes the character special, is when you can do that.
Yeah.
So for me, for our listeners, if you're looking for some like really cool refined experiences, Brave New World 6 and Ultima 4 are really good. One thing I want to talk about, this is maybe Jason's not the biggest ROM hacker, just because you have all the games anyway.
It
so
is what
you
it
don't
is.
really need to. But we talk about this quite a bit, are direct sequels for games. And I mean, like, literally, yeah, there's a Final Fantasy 6, a Final Fantasy 7, we know that. But what if there was a 6 too? Jason, why don't you start us out? What are some games that you would love to see, like, this game deserves a 1-to-1 sequel?
Yeah, for sure. 6-2 would be actually kind of fun. I think the first one I would pick, I love Super Mario RPG, and I'm sure you both do too. I would love to see a Mario RPG too. And Paper Mario is fantastic, but like I want that art style, I want that storyline, I want that music. I want to see that again.
Could you imagine Smithy's Revenge? If they
Yeah,
announced,
exactly.
I'd be like,
Smithy's Revenge is a great subtitle.
either I'm dying of cancer or Smithy's Revenge. Like they finally made a Super Mario RPG sequel. Like, oh my god, I'm right there with you. I don't understand. I'm sure it's
that.
It has to be something between like Nintendo and Square. And our next host actually kind of wrote a book about a falling out between part of one of his chapters about the falling out between Nintendo and Square, and that might be why it might be really hard for them to do that. But also, like, the writing's on the wall. This is something that people have wanted since it came out. Why can't we get a direct sequel to this?
Well,
game?
the thing is, I mean, there was that falling out between Nintendo and Square back when.
Nintendo and Square.
But that was 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, they're
yeah.
obviously working together again now.
Yeah, now, like, they're excluding Xbox. They're actually working closest with Nintendo of all things. And there are rumors swirling that Nintendo might buy them too. So you might
Nintendo's gonna buy Square?
That there's rumors.
Wow. Well, they didn't buy Atlas, and I was legitimately really mad. And then freaking Sega bought them. I'm like, this is
what?
an insult.
Sega?
Exactly.
Can Sega even Sega still has the money for that? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently.
I also want to do a hot take real quick. I think I would really like to see another Ghouls and Ghosts game. I don't know if y'all played that one.
I thought you were going to say something else, and if you did, it would have been us having the exact same thing again. But no, go on.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. So Ghouls and Ghosts, or Ghosts and Goblins, and then Super Ghouls and Ghosts, the sequel. They technically got like a remake on the PS2 with that Maximo series, which is also great for what it is. But we were talking earlier about 2D to 3D platformers being very weird. I think that like it's just I want another one.
I can't believe of all the times we talk about difficulty in video games and how you're so opposed to it, that game is a game that you would want a sequel of.
I think it's just because looking back, like it was what I like in games. It was a fun mood, like a little spooky mood, but it was charming, it was funny. It was just the right amount of difficulty because the enemies always came from the same place. So it wasn't like I got to learn stuff. It's just, oh, there's a ghoul up here. It was just really fun. And I think that it's reminding me of a time when I grew up renting the game and not knowing like what to do. I just want to see that kind of nostalgia again. And I would love to see
arcade style
that
games.
Come back. Arcade style. Totally right. Exactly right. I think that would be really fun.
Piggybacking off of you, I'd love to see more Demon's Crest.
Or
Demon's
Crest.
Yeah, I would rather see that for sure.
I mean, Gargoyle's Quest just got that Switch sport. Yeah, exactly.
That's like a great Metroidvania that's not Metroid or Castlevania. Like it really is just a good I thought you were gonna say when you were saying it, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and I know that, I know it does technically have like a sequel, but I mean like I would like a true sequel of Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, it's just
I mean that would work nowadays, like on PlayStation, like for like 20 player co-op, like throw it in there, try to survive the neighborhood. Wouldn't that be amazing?
But it's like it doesn't have to be anything like grotesque or anything like that. It could just be that cute 90s,
it could still be squirt guns.
90s 80s movies style. It kind of gives me like Plants vs Zombies vibes.
Exactly. David, what are some of yours?
I would definitely say, so just like in Final Fantasy X, how Final Fantasy X-2 was kind of a disappointment insofar as it didn't actually follow.
Patrick. Holding his heart.
Here you are.
I love the dress fears.
I played as Peach.
Okay. What I'm saying is that it didn't follow the right people. It should have been a prequel, and it should have followed Jet. And his
that would have been cool.
And followed his journey, and maybe do like I don't know, instead of dress spheres, warrior spheres. I don't know, but in the same vein, for the SNES, I would love to see a prequel to Final Fantasy V, following the Dawn Warriors.
Oh, that'd be cool. Did you just say that recently, or did we talk about that when we were meeting on stream?
That's the one.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
that's the one.
Yeah, because I love a good job system. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I will suck a dick for a good job system. Love it. And
that is a slogan to live by.
It really is. Hey, and it's a great game. It's actually probably my favorite Final Fantasy game on the SNES. Wow. Most people would say 6. I would say 5 just because of the replay value. I love the world, the worlds. I love exploring. I love how it's all interconnected. I love how it doesn't take the storyline too seriously. It's kind of like campy and out there. And then like there's like a million job classes, and you can play around with them, and you can have fun. And I'd love to.
It
see
has like arguably the best version of the Chocobo theme song in that one.
Oh yeah,
the Mambo de Chocobo. That's from that one.
It's really good.
Classic.
And just being able to go back into that world and just seeing what happened 30 years prior with X Death and all that kind of stuff. I would love that, because they talk about the Dawn Warriors all the time. You get to see them in Final Fantasy V, so why not go back and play their adventure?
It would be fun. Also, tangent, you played and did that video on Crystal Project. Speaking of sucking a dick for a job class system, that game for me is like the epitome of good job class design.
Isn't that game
there?
Like a lot of people
I love it.
A lot of people didn't see it or talk about it or download it or whatever, because I mean it's easy for an indie game to get lost in the shuffle. It really is. And I myself was pretty biased against indie games for a pretty long time, because I played some clunkers back when, and I'm like, ugh, there's just garbage out there. But then I was introduced to some pretty decent ones, and now that I'm being more discriminatory as far as what games I play, and I'm able to really research and say, oh, that thing's garbage, oh, that looks really good, and I'm really able to look and see and judge. Crystal Project, what a good game.
So I cannot talk. I want to get him on the podcast, and we've been messaging a little bit, which I would love to have him and to interview him to come on. Also, it's at the time of us recording this episode, it is the 1 year anniversary of it coming out.
Really?
Wow, look at that.
Yesterday was like, I just so desperately want to just keep on bolstering indie games, because they are just, I really think they appease the fans the most. We have so many AAA games that are letting us down, that I just kind of feel like indie games are the way to go.
They're keeping it afloat.
Speaking of games that kind of let us down, jumping back into our conversation, do you feel like there are some games on the Super Nintendo that aren't worth, I feel like this is probably where we're going to get in fist fights, that aren't worth how much people praise them? And it could be marginally or it could be substantially.
Okay, so
get the soapbox again.
Start us off.
You ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
Live Alive. I don't get it.
I just saw your video this morning. I literally I saw you talking about that on your video when you were talking about things this week, and I was like, oh, and I have to talk to him on the episode today.
He's already heated.
God, this game, I don't get it. So I was a huge fan of translation and all this kind of stuff, and every time that an SNES game would get translated, I'd be the first one to go and download it and play through it and everything. And I remember playing Live Alive and thinking, ugh, this sucks. No wonder this game wasn't released in America. Like, it actually dawned on me at the time of playing Live Alive, of all the games, that maybe a game not coming to America was a form of quality control, because all the shitty games we left in Japan. And I was like, oh, well, this kind of makes sense. So then 5-6 years later, I'm looking around on the internet and everybody's going, Live Alive is great. Oh, you should play Live Alive. This was probably 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. You should play Live Alive. Oh, it's this hidden gem by Square. It's wonderful. And I'm like, did you guys play the same game as me? This game is garbage. Like, this is garbo. Like, oh, you want to fight the final boss of your chapter? You better grind from level 8 to level 16 just so you have a freaking fighting chance. Oh, now do that for all 8 chapters. Oh, and then the characters come together for no reason. There's no storyline. Nothing's really going on. Like, it's so stupid. You can only buy items in like 1 chapter. Like, there's no towns or anything. It doesn't have a coherent map. It's like, what is this? It's like 8 dungeons almost thrown together, but some of these chapters barely have anything. Like that fighting chapter. Oh, you fight 6 bosses. Oh, okay, you're done. Sundown's chapter, you go through 1 stupid town, you're done in 15 freaking minutes. Cube's chapter, you do that boring ass visual novel crap on that spaceship with no background music. Oh, you're
so
done.
Heated. It's
so
great.
Then there's like really like 4 chapters, honestly, that actually have a modicum of gameplay. But then that ninja chapter sucks. It's horrible. Like, you're constantly falling into traps. It's a nightmare. You're either having to kill everybody or kill no one. Like, it's just so
Does
painful.
everybody listening hear my heart just slowly shatter
Break it.
as I'm listening to this debasing
It's fantastic.
of a great game?
No.
I will do a bonus XP with Casey on why
just to combat this
is a good game. So I'll save my thoughts. Okay, David, it's my turn. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do you want to know what game I think is overrated? Secret of Mana and Seiken Densetsu 3.
No!
Just because
They're not good games.
No!
I said it. Especially Secret of Mana. I think it was just a big fluff of a unique experience, but that game gave me seizures every time you would kill a boss. And
lots of flashing. Yeah.
No, I just kind of feel like they weren't a big enough push for what could have been. Like the Secret of Mana attacking at 100% to do full damage was silly. Going back and playing Seiken Densetsu and then Trials of Mana, I think it had the potential to be good, but I think it really was just people were so enamored with how nice it looked versus what was really going on in the game, because it's really go here, kill this, go here, kill this, go here, kill this. I just didn't find them that great. I think that they were really, I don't know, just not as exciting as people think they are.
I'll give it to you that the magic grinding sucked. I'll give you that sucked. But isn't every game go here, kill this, go here, kill that, go here, kill this?
But at the very least, I felt like the stories were a lot more interesting. Like Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV, Chrono Trigger made you feel. And here we have these games coming out from the same developers, kind of like what you're saying with Live Alive. And it just didn't have that big punch. And especially with Trials coming out later, you think that it would have. It just didn't. I just don't think it really held its own, you know? For me.
You probably know this because you're old enough to know this, but Secret of Mana was supposed to come out on some sort of like CD drive. It was supposed to have a whole bunch of extra stuff in it, and it was completely cut. And you can actually kind of see this in the game insofar as how far apart it's spaced for whenever you get the first 4 mana spirits as compared to when you get the last 4 mana spirits. It takes forever to get the first 4 mana spirits, and then it's boom, 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 boom. There's the last 4 because there was so much left on the cutting room floor. There really was.
Interesting.
It's a very Square Enix thing to not finish a game on time.
Yeah, it was basically like you got Flammy and then fly to these places. Okay, you're done. Yeah.
Jason,
well, I think
overrated games for you.
I think I can keep it in the realm of SquareSoft, but this is going to be probably a super hot take. I am not sure that I thought Chrono Trigger was as good as everyone claims it to be, and I have to clarify it. I think it is a good game, and I would recommend it. But I think the reason a lot of people root it in nostalgia, and I think that's great. I played it like 15 years after release, so I missed all of that.
That's fair.
And like looking back, I can see like what it does. The endings are great. The characters are great. Animation's there. But like I have already played many other like great RPGs, and I will include Chrono Trigger up there. But I just think like maybe I missed the train to call this the greatest RPG I've ever played. But I think it is good. So like I don't want it to be like canceled because I said Chrono Trigger is bad, but
you're saying
it's
like
not bad.
It's a 9.5 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10 is basically
what
you're saying.
I don't know if I would call it like a perfect masterpiece, but I think it is solid for what it is. It's just like I have played other RPGs that I like, and I've heard so much about it. Like I know what's coming, I know what to expect, so I lost that impact that you might get from playing it the first time.
Well, let me at least guess this.
Yeah.
If you were to say a top 5 SNES games, would it still be in your top 5?
Actually, let's talk about that, because that's actually how I want to end the episode. That's a good question, David. So really quickly, and then we'll let Jason start us out. to wrap up the episode, I want you guys to give me your top 5. However, let's do it. No explanation, just flat out. What is your top 5?
Okay, my top 5. I cannot believe we haven't talked about this yet, but I don't know. Are we gonna go in like order or just like say them?
I think you can just say them. I think it'd be too hard to rank them. I couldn't.
Okay, fair. Final Fantasy IV,
Okay.
Mario RPG, Mega Man X. What is that game? Super Mario World, and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
So it is not there.
It is not there.
So we are
All right.
fighting.
But yeah.
All
Sorry.
right. David, what
Okay.
would your top 5 be?
Well, I was told to exclude a holy trinity. So
No. No. So
Okay.
I said when I'm going to share my top 5, I'm going to exclude the Holy Trinity because I think those are obvious games. So I'm going to give the top 5, not including Final Fantasy VI, Super Mario RPG, and Chrono Trigger, because those are like an easy 3.
Those are your S ranks.
Yeah.
So in order
So-
just to give a spotlight to more games,
Okay.
I will also exclude said holy trinity of Super Mario RPG,
Thank you.
Chrono Trigger,
But
and
they are
Final Fantasy
there.
III, but
Unli-
they're
unlike
totally
adjacents.
there.
Unlike
Unlike
adjacent.
some
Yeah.
people. So anyway, Lufia 2, Secret of Mana. Yeah, you heard me.
Boo!
No. Bahamut Lagoon, Terranigma, and God. This God, it was so freaking good. God,
I need to check that out.
You need to.
Yeah, really. I don't think I heard of
So
that one.
Good. It was called like
Legit.
God, Growth and Devolution. I think it was Growth and Devolution. I don't know. Anyway, it was so good. It was so freaking good.
Nice steak. Patrick?
Okay. Also excluding the Holy Trinity, Legends of Zelda, Lufia 2, Yoshi's Island. A lot of people. I feel like that's a hot take right there.
Yeah, you got 2 more.
Turtles in Time, and Tales of Fantasia.
Okay.
See,
I didn't want to just pick
I
RPGs.
kind of wanted to
Yeah.
put the Tales games in there, but then I'm like, but there's remakes that are better. So, like that PlayStation 1 remake of Tales of Fantasia is pretty sweet, must say.
I think it's worth like noting that in all of our lists, we talked about games that we hadn't even talked about yet, like in this whole episode.
This is so
And
much.
a lot of our top 5s are nowhere near one another. And also we left out like huge games.
Yeah.
Like no one talked about Metroid. No one talked about Donkey Kong. I mean, if you want to throw like Punch Out there, like other like huge titles that came out, but like
There's so
I think it's just a testament.
Well, Jason, we still have a second half of the episode, so maybe
That's
those
true.
things will come up then.
Well, on that note, I guess we will finish up here. So we're gonna wrap up our first part here. As we're gonna take a quick break, we do hope that you can join our discussion over on Twitter and Instagram at HeyRPGaymer. We also have our Discord open for everyone to chat with games on there too. And if you like what you're hearing so far, please stay tuned, leave us a review, and we will be right back.
And we are back for part 2 of our episode on the Super Nintendo, and we're going to play a game that we actually haven't played for 2 whole seasons. We're going to go back and dig up, just like some old Super Nintendo games, the game of Would You Rather. So if you're not familiar, we are taking situations from the Super Nintendo era, and we're going to basically format them in a way of someone has to make a choice. Would you rather do this or that? These could be challenges. These could be just funny scenarios in the games, or these could be things brought in real life. And Jason, you're going to actually start us out, and David and I are going to say what we'd rather do. Maybe we'll be the same. Maybe we'll be different.
All right, I have a variety of things here, like in-game challenges and like out-of-game like questions for you all. But we'll do an in-game challenge one first, which is one that I tried to do when I was younger and I could not do it.
Let's do.
Would you rather play through a no-hit Donkey Kong Country run? You can choose which of the 3 games you'd like to play, or a no-hit Super Metroid run.
Oof.
I don't know if you guys even played these games.
I played both.
I'm assuming you did.
I've played both of them, some more than others.
Okay.
I'd
feel
rather
like
do
this...
no hit Donkey Kong because it is
Yeah.
easier.
I would
Because
rather
there are
do
those parts.
No hit Donkey Kong Country 2. Yeah.
Fair. I mean, we're including like the buzzy bramble levels and all the underwater levels too. Like, I remember I could not do this. So like, if you all,
but I'm thinking of Super Metroid, and you have like those acid pits that are really easy to fall in, or the scenes with like when the Metroids come in and whatnot. I feel like the precision of having to shoot things is a lot harder. So personally, like I am more of a platformer in that sense of like Donkey Kong and whatnot. I think I could potentially do that realistically.
Yeah, I would say Donkey Kong because I feel like it was created for you not to get hit that much, because it's like one hit and you lose your partner, or one hit and you lose your animal friend, whereas Metroid you have a whole bunch of HP, so you're like supposed to get hit, you know. So
and there's a random factor in Metroid that there's not in Donkey Kong. Like Donkey Kong is pretty procedurally generated, so
interesting. Okay, well, let me tell you, it's hard regardless of what you choose.
I bet. Okay, I got one for you both. Jason, this one might be a little bit harder for you for obvious reasons upon me and asking the question, but
wow, rude.
You are on a blind date. Who would you rather walk through the door? Hagar from Final Fight or Zangief from Street Fighter 2?
Oh, Lord.
Well, let me tell you this. I have heard that Zangief is actually canonically gay.
I have heard the same thing.
So, although Hagar is hot, I would totally go with Zangief because he's gay.
Nice. I think I would go with Hagar. I don't know. I feel like I would like a man of law. I'm assuming he would walk in. Actually, I'm assuming they both walk in their like typical game clothes. So like,
you didn't even
not wearing shirts, kind of greasy. I would. Yeah, Hagar seems kind of great. I mean, he's got that mustache, right? Like, I think that seems pretty cool. And he's in power.
In a Speedo, hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely team Zangief.
Either option is a win.
Yeah,
Russian daddy.
I really win. I'm all about this. Whew.
All right, David.
Okay, I think I did mine a little bit different than y'all's. Mine are game themed.
I'm ready for it.
So my Secret of Mana question is, would you rather fall down a waterfall or get shot out of a cannon?
I'd rather not play Secret of Mana ever.
Wow. Okay, dude. I would rather fall down a waterfall. I think that sounds more elegant and fun, and I feel like I know where I'm landing because water falls into itself, whereas the cannon might shoot me into like oblivion.
Okay.
Definitely. Life feels like being shot out of a cannon, so I'm team waterfall right now as well. Okay. And I mean, because going down a waterfall is also something that you would see in a much better game like Final Fantasy VI.
My Final Fantasy VI question is next, by the way.
Okay, moving on. Okay, I can take the next one. That's cool.
Yep.
Okay. Would you rather have your SNES or however you play games only be able to play Squaresoft RPGs or non-Squaresoft RPGs?
Oh, that's tough.
I would go with Squaresoft RPGs because I feel like Square's best RPGs for the most part were on the SNES.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I do play those games once a year, so I feel like the easy answer is that. So I'll probably say that as well.
But then again, I was thinking to myself, Square and Enix, because now it's Square Enix.
So would just be Scout?
It would just be Square.
Just Squaresoft.
So that gets rid of
Square.
like Robotrek. That gets rid of Seventh Saga. That gets rid of The Illusion of Gaia. Oh.
It's just,
I still say
just
Square.
telling of the era.
Yeah, there were so many
Squaresoft.
Games. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
I have a question for you guys. Would you rather be trapped in the Mushroom Kingdom, a la Super Mario RPG, or would you rather be trapped in the world of Dragon Quest?
I thought you were gonna go with like Hyrule or something. Wow. Well, I mean, first off, the Mushroom Kingdom seems a lot less dangerous, all things considered, because there's not like monsters roaming around that aren't like.
Yeah, it's not like there are spiky beetles or
but they all have like happy faces.
Or...
But they all seem cool and legit. I think though, like that would be fun, I guess, to live in the Mushroom Kingdom, but it might be more adventurous and cool to live in Dragon Quest. So I think I might lean towards Dragon Quest. I'd be an adventurer.
I would say Dragon Quest as well, because I do feel that like the Mushroom Kingdom is, I guess, an easier place to live. At the same time, you're kind of sequestered inside of your town. Whereas in the Dragon Quest world, every once in a while you'd be wandering through the dungeon, there might be a priest there might be people wandering all over the place, and I feel like it's just more alive. People are able to go out more, I guess, in the Dragon Quest world.
Are we also assuming if I was in the Mushroom Kingdom that I would be like one of 2 humans and the rest would all be like toads?
You would
and
100% be a toad, Jason.
Okay.
There's no debate about that.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. Then definitely Dragon Quest.
Okay.
Right, David, what's your next
Final
one?
Fantasy VI, that's my question. For my Final Fantasy VI themed question. Would you rather hold up an entire house for 2 minutes by yourself?
Oh my god.
Or lose your wife and child and everybody that you know and hold dear to yourself by poison from Kafka?
I work out a lot, so I'm definitely going. And Sabin's probably
Hold
my favorite
up.
character. I'm holding up that damn house.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got 3 minutes, bitch. I'll give you the extra one. You can get those monster chests. I got it.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Perfect.
I could work out more, but I think I would probably do the hold up too. I couldn't see the death of everyone else. It would be challenging.
Okay.
Gruesome.
I
Oh, shit,
totally
I'm
went
next.
a completely different way on these questions.
No,
this is good. I like it.
This is so good.
My next one was kind of like Patrick, so I'll skip that one. Okay. Would you rather live in a world about to be ruined by Kefka in Final Fantasy VI, but you somehow survive all of that, or live in a world about to be decimated by an erupting Lavos in Chrono Trigger?
Oh,
If you could like live through the destruction, where would you want to live?
I would still live in Final Fantasy VI World of Ruin, because I mean there are still
Ruin.
things going on, and like they still fix everything. The only way to fix Lavos is time. Like they literally have to go back in time to fix it. So
But I mean, like that could be your thing. Like maybe you'll want to be a time traveler.
Yeah, definitely Final Fantasy VI World of Ruin, because there's still
Yeah.
towns, there's still people wandering around,
Yeah.
and then like you go to the future in Chrono Trigger. I remember crying whenever I went to the future in Chrono Trigger, because it's just so like the refrigeration is out and they have no food and the guy is dead down there, and it's just, oh my god, it's so freaking depressing.
quite literally.
So depressing.
I think I would go the Chrono Trigger route, because I think I would want to be like empowered to do that and like fix that time.
Every
I think
time
that'd be
you'd
really
go in the thing, you'd still be hungry, Jason.
Yeah,
Don't
you go
you
to the
know?
Enertron,
Well,
but you're still hungry.
so you're still
And
hungry,
in
Jason.
Final Fantasy VI,
Fight
you get to
through it.
live to the music of Searching for Friends, which is like the best music.
That's
ever.
true.
Good airship music.
Yeah, I guess I assume I would hear that in the world. It's playing overhead at all times.
Plus you could hold up that house.
Yeah,
Okay.
suplex a train. Yeah.
Wanted, now hiring for the position of a new fighter. Which game are you applying to? Clay Fighters or Killer Instinct?
This is the Jason question.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what am I applying to? Wow. I think Killer Instinct is a lot more brutal. Actually, that's not true. People get cut in half all the time in Clay Fighter.
Not the made of clay, though.
Yeah, they're made of clay at least. I think I would more realistically be Clay Fighter. I think it's more fun and like friendly, if you will. Whereas Killer Instinct, people are literally getting like incinerated and kicked off of buildings and falling on top of cars. But in Clay Fighter, I'm just like, oh, my clay arm fell off. Better put that back on. So I think I'd rather go there.
I would totally choose Clay Fighter as well. Yeah, it's just cuter. It's just nicer. It's just more my aesthetic as well. I played Killer Instinct on the N64. Remember we bought the Rumble pack for it, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But definitely Clay Fighter.
Oh, can we also go back and can I add Clay Fighter to my direct sequels I'd like to see? I want to see Clay Fighter again.
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 Yeah.
It's
been a minute
Yes,
since we've
without
seen
all the
one of those.
racism, please.
Oh, very long.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, David.
My Lufia 2 themed question.
Ooh.
Here we go. Would you rather slowly watch your boyfriend and love of your life fall in love with somebody else right in front of your eyes, only to then get married to her the second that you leave, or knowingly sacrifice you and your partner and sentence yourself to death on a floating island in order to save the rest of the world?
These are both awful.
That's literally the two big things in the game.
Yeah. You go first, Patrick.
Oh, I've had number one done to me,
Oh.
so we're picking number two.
We're gonna call you Tia from now on.
I'm gonna go guy.
Oh God. What was number 2?
Number 2.
I actually have not
knowingly
played this game. I'm
sacrifice
so sorry.
You and your partner and sentence yourself to death in order to save the rest of the world.
Did you ever play Lufia 1?
Wasn't there a Game Boy Advance remake of one of them?
Oh yeah, that's the third.
It wasn't a
Color.
remake. It was a it was a Gaiden.
Okay, it's the only one that I played is that one.
Well, I was gonna say because
it was the worst one.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. I didn't think it was that good.
The beginning of Lufia 1 is the end of Lufia 2. Like you play as the heroes saving.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think they're both awful. I'd like to abstain. But if I had to pick, I guess I would also pick the second one because it seems like I'm saving the rest of the world by sacrificing myself, so I can at least do something noble, and that seems okay.
I always thought
I don't know if I could live. Like if my partner was like gone and they betrayed me, I'd feel so sad. I've got one more, and this one is another really personal one because I remember earlier I said one of my first RPGs was Mario RPG. I did not know what RPGs were. I did not know what any of this meant, but I did do this because I was dumb and young. Would you rather play Mario RPG through the entirety and only choose HP increases when you level up, or only choose FP increases when you level up? Because when I was young, I thought HP was the be-all, end-all of stats, and I played the entire game only leveling up that. What would you choose?
I think I would choose the FP, because everybody shares FP. And you could kind of go through and use Mallow's Thunderbolt and then the Princess's Group Hug. And if you use that every single turn, then maybe you could get through decently without dying.
Wait, is that? I don't think those are the options in that game. I think you're mixing it up with Paper Mario, because it's hit points, it's attack and defense together, and then it's special attack and special defense, right?
Oh, then it's a special attack, special defense.
Okay.
Whatever the last one is in the pipes, whatever that last one is.
Okay. Well, then if that
so
was
the special,
then instead of the special attack stat, I would probably choose the HP.
Okay.
Either way, it seems terrible.
That's what I chose. It was not fun. I got to a point in the game where I'm like, I literally can't beat this person.
Oh, no.
I think I would still choose the hit points, because I mean, I still think you like your equipment subsets the rest of everything else. So yeah, I would still do team hit points.
It's true.
Well, 8-year-old Jason made mistakes. So I'm glad you all are here to make that better. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Go I got this. The United States is being overrun with monsters. You have the power to summon one group of heroes to save the day. Are you calling the cast of Final Fantasy VI or the cast of Chrono Trigger? It's a tough one.
I mean, in sheer numbers, there's more from 6, right?
Yeah,
I feel like you would.
That's where I was.
If you needed to just,
and there's more
but they don't
have powers because they have the magic.
But they don't have a robot.
But they don't have
but
or
they
a
do
frog.
Have Marl, and Marl sucks. She's complete great.
But they have Magus.
That's true.
That's true. Are we getting like enemies too? Like, do the enemies join us, or just like the player characters?
They're just the player characters.
I'm going to go with Final Fantasy VI. Their stats are higher. They can go into 4-digit stats. Chrono Trigger only 3-digit stats.
That's funny. That's funny.
Have to do with Marl
I think...
and her uselessness. And
hey, I soared too. I soared too.
I would also go 6. I think again for quantity, but also there's a good variety of people there too. They have a lot of skills and stats they can use, and they've been through some shit. I mean, I guess Chrono Trigger has too, but like I think that they could deal with America as it is.
There's just something very Avengers like of the Chrono Trigger team. So I think I would actually choose the
assemble across time.
I think there's something very enticing about that. Which is hard for me to say because I do like 6 more than Chrono Trigger. But yeah, okay. I see your choices. I see your choices. All right, David, take it on home for us.
Here we go.
I'm excited. You have some very malicious ones.
I know.
There's some tough ones here.
We're like, do you want this cute game cast or this cute game cast? And you're like,
how do you want to be murdered?
I totally.
Do you want a Goomba to fist you, or do you want a Koopa to suck you off with his teeth? Like,
wow!
Oh my god. Okay, so here's my Final Fantasy IV themed question. Would you rather sacrifice yourself to protect your loved one from a hail of arrows, or allow 2 children in the prime of their lives to kill themselves to protect you?
Rough. Again with the murder. Palamaport were annoying though.
And they were spies. Evil spies.
Yeah, they were.
Wait, who gets killed with arrows?
Anna.
Oh,
Anna.
Anna, duh. I was like, there's no main character that does, but Anna.
Protecting Edward.
I feel personally attacked, and I just feel like I didn't like Palom and Porum, so they can be gone.
Okay.
And I think that's what I'm doing with.
I have a thing for spoony bards, so I would probably protect Edward.
Patrick? Or I don't have any more. So.
Yeah, I think I have one more if you guys want it.
Sure.
Bring us the final one.
I already know Jason's answer, so David,
Oh.
this one's going to be more oriented toward you, but which game would you rather have deleted, or which game series would you rather have deleted from existence? The Kirby series or the Mega Man X series?
Mega Man X. 100%.
Wow.
100%.
He didn't even finish the question yet.
100%.
He could have said more.
And let me tell you why. I love Mega Man. I like the Mega Man series. But Mega Man X took the fun pick up and play part of Mega Man, and they added in like a tutorial stage. They added in like you have like minuscule health and then wall jumping. I can't wall jump to save my life. It's like Ninja Gaiden or something. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So regular Mega Man is great, and Kirby is like the best. I have Kirby behind me. I love Kirby. You don't see Mega Man behind me. Yeah.
Mega Man's over here off camera. You can't see him on mine, but he's over there. You would assume I would erase Kirby, but I don't know, because like if I actually really think about Mega Man X, like really only only like Mega Man X1, X2, and then maybe like 4 or 5, can't remember which one. Like only those ones were really solid. The rest weren't that great. I said they're still good, but I don't know. But
so this is in the confines of the Super Nintendo.
A Kirby Superstar is great.
That's like one of the best Kirby games ever.
I know. I think if it's in the confines of just the Super Nintendo, I would axe Kirby. But if it's in the confines of the entire series across all time, I would axe Mega Man.
Yeah, that definitely changes it for sure.
Yeah, it changes it.
All right.
That's a tough one, Patrick.
That was it. We did it. We did the thing.
We did it.
We did the thing.
David, we had such a great time talking about the Super Nintendo with you today.
Yeah, I had a good time.
I've been laughing and smiling for like an hour and a half.
Thank you for your master's advice. We super appreciate your sage wisdom. So, except on, certain games.
Live Alive.
Yeah, except on Secret of Mana with you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just don't like having seizures.
A love-hate
okay?
relationship.
Gosh.
Where can our listeners find you?
You can find me at YouTube at DavidVinc, VINC, not ink. Or over on Twitter at the DavidVinc. That is where I am.
And what kind of content can they expect to see from you?
All sorts, mostly JRPGs. I am a retro gamer at heart. I love retro gaming, but I also do modern gaming. I do top 10 lists. I do reviews. I do news shows. Sometimes I just do funny videos. All sorts of stuff.
You get a lot of early access to games too.
Oh yeah, I do.
Cool.
I get a lot of publishers reaching out to me to do early reviews and stuff like that too. Which
Super
is
awesome.
Pretty neat, I've got to say.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for being here. And then, Jason, why don't you take us on home?
Yes, for sure, David. It was super awesome. Would love to see you back again, and really happy we had the time to talk to each other.
Yeah.
But we do want to hear what our listeners would like to say too. Again, follow us and comment back, Twitter and Instagram at HeyRPGaymer. And then again, I like to plug Discord. Talk about games all the time there. RPGs for sure, SNES, everything in between. We'd love to hear it. And also, if you'd like to support this show, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/RPGaymer. Give us support there, and we'd love to hear your feedback and comments about this exact podcast. And those donations on Patreon are used to bring guests such as David and other amazing guests for the season onto our show. It also gives us new equipment and things that we can use to make our voices sound even sexier on stream. So yes, we appreciate all of that support.
If you enjoyed listening to us today, be on the lookout for our next podcast, Encounters, coming up in 2 weeks. We appreciate you all for listening and hope you had a great time. Now go out there and get gaming.